Sometimes we'll need a little assistance out on the water, but fortunately for most boaters, there's always somebody around who's willing to lend a hand, just like some of the people we'll see in this week's episode of Boating News of the Week. Our first story to make the boating news this week is going to take us up to the Pacific Northwest, where some people in British Columbia found themselves in serious trouble this past week due to torrential rains, which caused severe flooding and found some farmers with some wildlife in a little bit of trouble, but fortunately, boaters were to the rescue. I know these scenes seem a little crazy to watch a guy on a jet ski trying to lead a cow to dry land, but this shows you the desperation of the situation. These farmers in British Columbia took every action they could to try and save this wildlife, including leading cattle through neck-deep water using jet skis or pulling cows onto boats. Now, it wasn't only wildlife finding themselves in need of rescuing from this flooding. A little further south, down in the United States in Washington, many people found themselves in harm's way as water started to rise from the Columbia River. Local authorities used boats as long as they could to try and rescue people off along the banks of the Columbia River, but the Coast Guard eventually had to be called in to do air evacuations as the rising waters caused the speed of the river to become unsafe for them to continue to use boats. This flooding was caused from storms that hit the Pacific Northwest this past week that dumped a month's worth of precipitation in as little as 48 hours in some areas, and many people will be dealing with the ramifications of this for some time to come. Our next story to make the boating news this week is going to take us down to St. Petersburg, Florida, where this past week, Coast Guard crews responded to a pontoon boat near Bayboro Harbor that was hard aground and submerged on a jetty of rocks with 5 passengers on board. Fortunately, 4 of the passengers were able to walk ashore safely, but the negative part was it did leave 1 person in the drink. Coast Guard crews responded in a 45-foot rescue vessel and were able to quickly get to the aid of the person who found themselves in the water. This person was very fortunate of the quick response of the Coast Guard. As you can see here, this person was not wearing a life jacket, which means if she would have been left in the water for an extended period of time, this could have easily had a significantly different outcome. Our next story to make the boating news this week is going to take us down to South America and Brazil, where this past week, this luxury motor yacht caught fire near Angra dos Reis, just south of Rio de Janeiro. I always find these events in South America interesting, and the main reason is they never seem to make the news. There's not a whole lot of information known about this fire, other than the fact it is the luxury motor yacht Lady C. Really, there's no information currently. Local fire authorities did admit to receiving a call about the blaze on board the 82-foot vessel, but nobody has recognized whether anyone was injured or if anybody was on board the charter boat at the time. I'm literally sent events like this from Brazil all the time, and there's never any news story to back it up, which always leads me to believe if you ever want to dump a motor yacht, Brazil may be the place to do it. Our next story to make the boating news this week is going to take us over to South Carolina, where this past week, 3 people had to be rescued approximately 46 miles off the coast of Winyah Bay. The crew on board the motor yacht Just Looking contacted the Coast Guard around 4:22 a.m., stating that they were taking on water and they were also experiencing failure in their communication radios. The Coast Guard then asked the crew to go ahead and activate their EPIRB emergency GPS locator beacon, and a helicopter was sent to air evac the 3 people off the vessel. The 3 crew members from onboard the vessel were transferred to the U.S. Coast Guard station in Georgetown, South Carolina, and no injuries were reported. The crew was praised by the Coast Guard though, with one Coast Guard member quoted as saying the crew on board the vessel Just Looking had prepared for the worst case scenario, and their practice paid off. All of their gear, including flares, EPIRBs, life jackets, and damage control equipment was in working order, and that the crew's advanced preparations allowed for a safe and timely rescue of all the people on board and made the job of the Coast Guard helicopter crew as easy as possible. These images seen here show what it was like when the air crew arrived on the scene. They immediately lowered a rescue swimmer, a radio, and a dewatering pump to assist in keeping the motor vessel afloat. And then, as can be seen here, they began to airlift the 3 crew members off the vessel.
Clear. Right. Survivor and basket are just below the aircraft. Basket is at the rail.
Our next story to make the boating news this week is going to take us back down to Florida, where this past week a 38-foot sailboat caught on fire near Pink Shell Resort on Fort Myers Beach. The sailboat was seen smoking in the water near Pink Shell Marina. Marine fire crews showed up and began to extinguish the flame. The sailing vessel that was on fire was later cut loose from the docks at the marina and was towed away by Coast Guard officials to help protect the other boats docked at the marina. Officials did acknowledge that the blaze broke out in the engine compartment, but they were unsure at this time exactly what caused the blaze. Officials also warned that the boat had been towed out but was anchored and will be staying near Bowbridge Point Channel until it can be removed. No one was on board the vessel at the time of the blaze, and no injuries were reported. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Boating News of the Week. If you ever see anything crazy happening out on your waterways, be sure to hit me up on Facebook or Instagram and let me know, and you might see your stories over here. Just like Yamaha 7-Man, Sonar Sophie, Marvin Maverick, and Jill Johns did this week. And if you guys haven't already, go ahead and drop an anchor on the subscribe button here. If not, we're coming to steal your drain plug.